All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Museum of Glass. Welcome to our monthly concert and interview series. I believe at this point we're going on year 6 here. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors, and of course that's the Museum of Glass, Tacoma Creates, Ted Brown Music, KNKX, Edward Jones Financial Consultant Rick Gray, and Titus Wilcars. They all help make this series possible, as do you guys for being here, whether you're joining us online or in person. Today we have the very special treat of having the wonderful musician and composer and drummer Xavier Lecoutier joining us today. Thanks for coming, Xavier.
Yeah, happy to be here.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to do the interview for about 45 minutes. And if you have any questions for Xavier or myself, we'll open that up the last 15 minutes for questions. If you're joining us online, feel free to put your questions in the comments at any time, and we'll get to those at the end. And if you're watching this like 5 hours after this has occurred, you want to have your questions answered later, still put it in the comments, and we'll do our best to get to them as we can. So, Xavier, for people that don't know, I mean, you're one of the most active musicians here in the Pacific Northwest, and you're not from here originally, though. Right. And your main instrument is drums. I'm just covering a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I put Xavier's bio on the internet stuff. You can check it out there. But for those that don't know you as a drummer and a composer and a musician, and a band leader, can you talk a little bit how music began for you? Where did that start? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Bay Area, and my parents loved music. There's always records playing. So I grew up with like a lot of Santana, Latin music, classical music, and as a young kid, I always wanted to play the guitar. I wanted to be like a rock star on the guitar. It was my dream. So I started playing guitar, taking lessons, and got through the school system. It was really great, jazz education in the Bay Area. So I kind of went through high school, played the guitar, and eventually I sat down on the drum kit. I think it was my junior year of high school, and just fell in love. It was so much easier than the guitar for me. So yeah, I started playing the drums. I got into like the top jazz band at an arts high school, and then went to college here at Cornish, and yeah.
Cool. Well, I want to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So you started music early. So there was music in the house? Did your folks play? Your family play?
Yeah, so my dad's a conga player, kind of just an amateur conga player, good conga player. Brother's a classical pianist, so there was always a piano in the house. I'd always hear Chopin in the back of my head, and Mom didn't play, but she loved music. Yeah.
So, and you mentioned the Bay Area. So, when you first became aware of music, or just being around music and playing all the time, I'm assuming, or just enjoying it, was there music in school at a very early age, like elementary school? Did you have programs and things?
Yeah, let's see. I think I even played the violin as early as elementary school, yeah. Besides the classic recorder thing, But I played clarinet actually in middle school. I played viola a couple years and got into a string quartet. Kind of just remembering all this actually. It's been a while. So clarinet, viola, what else? And then guitar. Yeah.
So when did you start being aware of, there's so many ways to think about this word, but jazz and spontaneous composition. When did that begin? When did that start for you?
I think it was because in middle school I really wanted to play the guitar, but through the band program you can only play clarinet, viola, strings, orchestra. But then there was a combo after school that a really great what was his name? Mike Schulis had a after school jazz combo program, and that was the place I could play the guitar. And so I joined. I had no idea about standards or playing jazz music, but actually that was my introduction to learning some tunes out of that purple Real Easy book. Yeah, you know what I'm talking. So I started learning improvising some scales, pentatonic scales on guitar, and started to figure some stuff out. Yeah, it was actually pretty cool.
So the point of these interviews is also to get to know you better, but also the historical part, where this stuff happened. So what was the middle school that you attended?
It was Miller Creek Middle School in Marinwood, Marin County. Yeah.
Were there, at that time when you were in middle school and starting to learning how to play and being aware of this, were there venues where you could go hear artists play, or was it all recordings?
Yeah, I think it was primarily recordings. I definitely went to check out music with my parents a lot. Some Latin jazz, stuff like that. I remember seeing some concert at the Grove in San Francisco. But mostly just listening. I remember I think in middle school, listening to Snarky Puppy for the first time. when they were kind of a really low-key band.
You're making me feel really old right now, but yes, okay. So,
Yeah.
well, okay, so Snarky Puppy, that's
Yeah.
my next question. Like, who were some of your early, like, main influences that you really enjoyed listening to check out when you were just getting started?
Yeah, I think it was like some of that stuff, the more like straight eighth kind of groups, or like funk stuff, just because it was appealing as a young person. I remember listening to like Kendrick Scott's record Conviction with like kind of like a hip hop beat and like some improvisation, and I was like, whoa, this is what you can do with this music. It was fascinating to me, and through like Kendrick, I worked my way back through drummers, but I kind of started the new stuff and then worked my way back. I think it's pretty classic for yeah.
And are we talking about drums at this point, or
Yeah.
still guitar?
Well, let's see. When I was playing guitar, I was checking out like Snarky Puppy and some guitar players from that group, and I wasn't really checking out the tradition much as far as the guitar. I wasn't so serious about it, but once I started playing the drums, like, okay, I got to check out the tradition, see the old drummers and stuff like that. Yeah.
At any point, did you start taking lessons on drums, or was this all self-taught, or how did that progress?
I think like I started taking lessons junior year of high school on drums with a great teacher, Ben Loffer, who studied with Tommy Igoe. So I kind of was working through his workbooks and stuff. But yeah, junior year is when I started taking lessons. Yeah.
And so, middle school, you're learning how to play. You're in groups. Where did you go to high school?
So I went to Catholic school for 3 years, Marine Catholic, and then my senior year, because I was really getting into the drums, the music program was okay at Marine Catholic. They didn't have like a jazz program much, and I met Dylan, actually, a great friend of mine from the Bay Area, who was going to Marine School of the Arts, and he convinced me to go there my senior year and join the jazz band. They needed a drummer. And so I did, yeah.
So when you say Dylan, I mean, we know what you're talking about.
Sorry.
They don't know what you're talking about. Dylan Hayes,
Dylan
who's
Hayes,
a great
yeah.
pianist
Right.
in Seattle now that's doing a lot of work.
Right.
We're going to get to that shortly.
Yeah.
So high school, you're playing in groups, you're studying, you're taking lessons, and obviously I'm sure at this point becoming more aware of music and the universe that is.
Right.
Were there venues and things to check out? Were you putting groups together and playing out in the public, or mostly just with school, or how did that happen?
Yeah, we played at like the farmers market, stuff like that. I remember it was like my first actual gig, and I had to borrow. I didn't have a drum set like all through high school. I think I might have got one senior year, like towards the end. But I had to remember having to borrow drums from a friend. Like, man, I got a gig. Like, can I borrow your drums and stuff like that? But yeah, we played farmers market, like some yacht club stuff, just like private stuff. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of clubs you could go check out for us, besides going to the city, San Francisco. Yeah.
This is kind of going on a tangent here, but I'm
Yeah.
curious about your opinions. I'm 46 now. I know you're
Yeah.
younger than me. How old are you?
I'm 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think about this, and also when I'm hiring drummers, and we worked a fair amount together, the amount of knowledge that you have to know stylistically to play regularly. My opinions about this. If you played drums in the 1930s, there's only a certain amount of time frame you had to study. In the 1950s, a little bit more. In the 1960s, 70s. In the 2020s, you have to know a lot of music. And so I'm very impressed with drummers that know how to play swing well and all the different types of, Brazilian music, Afro-Cuban music, funk, hip hop, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you can tell the drummers, and I'm not saying older drummers can't do that, because it seems to me that jazz musicians are always studying and growing their skill sets.
Yeah.
You're clearly one of the drummers that has all those things together and is working on them. But do you ever feel a lot of pressure, like, oh my God, there's just so much stuff to deal with?
Yeah, absolutely. On the other side, though, the more you learn all these different styles, it all starts to become the same. And there's so many similarities. So it gets easier, too. The more styles, you're like, oh, there's a lot of cross-pollination there. Yeah, but I love it, too. I listen to all sorts of music all the time, listening to all sorts of, different styles, different drummers. And there's so much more to learn. I'm still scared of, the metal gig or the rock gig. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, But, I love all styles, yeah.
All right. Well, so you met Dylan Hayes in high school. So did you guys start putting a group together back then? Or because you're still working together now and putting projects together?
Yeah, I think we had a band senior of high school, yeah. It was through the high school, just our friends. Nicole McKay was actually a very well-known alto saxophone player, was in school with us. But yeah, we had a combo. We started gigging and writing our own music. I think, me and Dylan, from the very beginning, loved to write music together, original music. That was kind of our passion. And we still even play some of the tunes we wrote in high school together, yeah.
Well, so now high school and gigging, were there any, now I know like, for example, here in the Northwest, there's programs like Roosevelt to Garfield or even some of the colleges, you get UW.
Yeah.
They've been very good about bringing out, world-class artists to teach and perform. Did your band directors, were there any artists that came to work with you guys when you were in high school?
Yeah, we had some like local people came in, and they had some stories like played with Joe Henderson when Henderson lived in San Francisco. But I was only in the program a year. Like I don't remember any like prominent artists coming. But yeah, we checked out some good stuff. Yeah.
Well, so then you should talk to Brian Kirk. He's got a million Joe Hendersons. He lived like next door to Joe Henderson in California.
Right. Okay.
Anyways,
Oh, wow.
that's another interview for another time.
Yeah.
So how did you get from the Bay Area to Cornish? What made you want to come up to Seattle and attend Cornish College of the Arts?
It was actually a teacher at my previous high school, Marin Catholic, who I think his brother went to Cornish, and he kind of hit me to the program. He was like, hey, there's like Jovinos out there, you should check them out, and it's a really cool school. You can kind of like create your own kind of path. I checked it out, and honestly kind of came down to scholarship because I didn't want to pay a lot of money to go to music school. There's no secret there. But they gave me a nice scholarship. I like the program. I like Seattle. So I decided to come up.
I have questions.
Yeah.
So I attended Cornish. I graduated in 2002, and at the time, I'm just comparing notes on faculty here. It was bassist Chuck Deerdorf,
Yep.
pianist Jovino Santos Neto,
Yeah.
Margie Pose was teaching theory,
Margie.
Randy Halberstadt on piano,
Yeah.
Jim Knapp on composition, Julian Priester on trombone, Hadley Kalman on saxophone, Dave Peck on piano, Mark Ivester on drums. I'm sure. Danny Goodhue was around.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm curious, what year did you graduate?
Well, I never graduated, but
What year were you there?
let's see. 2015 is when I started.
Okay.
So 2015 to 2018. Yeah.
Okay, so who was around the sphere of faculty at that time?
Yeah, I think all the people you mentioned besides Jim had left, Jim Knapp, but or was he there? He might have been there my first year. But I didn't get to know Jim until after college, which was kind of curious. Yeah. But yeah, all the people you mentioned. Julian had retired, obviously, Julian Priester. But again, I got to know him after college very well.
Was Hadley around, or he'd passed away by then?
Yeah, he was gone, by the time I got there. But some great faculty, yeah. I studied with Mark Ivester. Showed me a lot of Latin music, and that was super cool. Like I said, I studied with Don Clement on piano. Yeah.
Janae Kendrick.
John A, yeah, that's
Yes.
right. Yeah. John A, studied with her. Me and Dylan even did just a class with her. The three of us got to play and write some music together. It was amazing.
I knew I forgot somebody. So also vocal on. I didn't stay with him because I wasn't in the vocal part of it. But Jay Clayton was there for a minute, and then Beth Winter. So and obviously, if Janae was there when you were there, they were not there at the time. So
yeah, I miss them. But I played a lot with Beth's son, Lucas Winter. Who I was in school with at the same time. Yeah.
That was my next question. So aside from the faculty, I mean, I learned a lot from my peers when I was there. And Don and I were in classes together.
Oh, whoa, crazy.
Yeah. So who were some of the other students that were around at the time when you were studying there?
Yeah, obviously Dylan. Like I mentioned, Lucas. We had a band together. That was actually my first record. Was with this band. We met every Sunday. Every week we played. Who else was around? Martin Booty, a great friend of ours and collaborator. We met. Who's from Alaska. Beautiful musician. We still play together. Like every day. Done lots of traveling together. So yeah, like met my core people at Cornish, really, that we still make music with and have traveled the world playing music with these people. Yeah.
It's funny you mention that because I play a lot with Jacques Willis. He's also from Alaska, who I met at Cornish, and we did the same story. Yeah. I wonder if Martin and Jacques have. I don't know. We'll have to ask him anyways.
Yeah.
Whatever. We're digressing here. Okay, so Cornish, and you're putting projects together. Now, at that time, where were some of the places? I mean, I'm sure you were playing gigs and clubs and all that kind of stuff. Where were some of the places that you would go play while you were still in school?
Yeah, I guess like the first kind of legit gig or club gig was Tula's, which is now gone, but that became like a really steady working gig for me. That's really where I learned the most, more than college, more than anywhere, was on the bandstand at Tula's. I learned so much, playing in big bands, playing in Thomas Marriott's quartet for a year there. I just played with so many people that kicked my butt, and just had to learn by doing, and that's honestly the best way, I think. Yeah.
So going back to the educational side really quick, I wanted to ask about this earlier. So you play pretty well on piano. I've seen videos of you playing, and you write. So
Yeah.
where did piano get into the mix? When did that start?
Yeah, so like I said, my brother was a classical pianist. Took piano lessons like since a very young age, and there was always a piano at the house, and I always just tinkered on the piano. I really wish I could even go further with the piano. I really love the instrument. But yeah, I play a lot. I write with the piano. I have Dylan Hayes show me some stuff. Yeah, I love the instrument, and yeah, I want to keep going with it too.
When you were in college at Cornish, you said you studied piano with Dawn Clement,
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah, Dawn became a really good friend, and she was helped me with so much stuff, and I wanted to get into some piano stuff, and I convinced the department to let me take some piano lessons, which was out of my curriculum as a drummer, but it was super helpful. I learned so much. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah.
Right on. So I know you mostly as a drummer, and that's not a dig at all, but I mean,
No,
just
yeah.
from playing drums.
Yeah.
So now in 2025, if you look back, I mean, you've been playing for a long time. So who are some of your main? And that's kind of a rough question. Who are some influences that you really like that you have enjoyed their playing and tried to maybe emulate as a drummer?
Yeah.
That's a fair question. I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, Kendrick Scott has been a huge influence on me in my playing. A lot of the modern guys, but people like Tony Williams, love Tony Williams. Checked out so much of his music, his writing, love his playing. Who else? Gosh, yeah, that's a tough question. People like Brian Blade, the list goes on. Yeah, I don't know. But Kendrick is a big influence for me, sound-wise, and I've listened to every record he's ever recorded and go see him every time he's in town. Yeah, for sure.
Now, you mentioned some of the groups that you worked with, and you're still working with Martin Booty, and you're still working with Lucas Winter, Thomas Marriott. What are some other groups? I know there's the DX
DX-Tet, yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's an octet. Me and Dylan Hayes run, we've had for years. We actually just recorded a record, which we're trying to put out. Me and Dylan have I think 6 recordings we've tracked. We're just trying to get them mixed, mastered, and released, which is
Money.
money, yeah. But we have so much music coming out with DX-Tet. Meridian Odyssey is another band we have with some New York folks. Have another record we just recorded. Did a tour recently. What else? Yeah, that's the main ones.
There was a project I remember. I don't get out because wife and kids and life, and it's crazy. The schedule's nuts. But there was a thing you were doing a regular program at the Owl and Thistle for a while.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so every Thursday I created music there. I usually played most when I could, but yeah, so it was there wasn't a jazz night on Thursdays for the most part in Seattle, so I wanted to start something up. It was good. It was tough. It was a lot of work. I don't know how all you guys do it, but yeah, we went for over a year, and yeah, played with my friends. Had some different folks come in and play. That I was trying to get people that don't always have the opportunity to get some gigs. So yeah, it was cool, but it was tough money wise. I lost money doing that, which is I guess how it goes sometimes. But yeah, anyway.
Yes. Yeah. If you ever get a chance to talk to Julian McDonough about presenting music and
yeah.
losing money.
Right. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long story.
Yeah.
We love you, Julian, and
Yeah.
appreciate all of the great work that you have done.
Julian's amazing. One of
yes.
my favorite Seattle drummers.
Yes. All right. Well, can you talk a little bit about there's what was it? Well, you mentioned Meridian Odyssey, and some
Yeah.
of the musicians, you mentioned New York musicians, and you got a couple albums out now with that band.
Yeah, with Meridian Odyssey, yeah.
And some of the other musicians of the band, they're from here originally, and now they're moved to New York, and they're living in New York. And
That's right.
Okay, so does that provide opportunities for you guys to go over there and gig and
Yeah.
do that as well?
Yeah, we've done a couple of New York shows. Yeah, a couple of New York shows. We go to the East Coast a little bit. We've toured the West Coast a lot, like Canada to L.A., or I don't know if we actually played in L.A., but San Diego. Yeah, it's a really great band with some lovely, lovely people.
Who all's in there? It's you and Dylan, and was Martin in that as well?
Yep, Martin. Okay. Then Ben Feldman, Noah Halpern, and Santos Sharma. We're all, I think, all Roosevelt graduates. I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned Tula's. Did Meridian Odyssey have a chance to play there?
No, yeah, it was way after Tula's left. When did Tula's close down? I don't remember.
It was, I think, like right before the pandemic. I
Yeah,
think I might be
yeah,
wrong.
that
I mean,
sounds right.
someone, if you're watching this, correct me, but I think it's somewhere around there, right
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, no, I don't think I ever. Well, I had my quartet playing at Tula's. That was like the only original group. I think we did a couple DX shows there too, actually.
Well, speaking of here in California, I know that Jason was running
Yeah,
Tula's at
that's
that
right.
time.
Yeah.
So was Jason the person that you dealt with there?
I don't think he was at the time, but I definitely ran into him at Black Cat. You mean at Tula's or Black Cat?
Well, that's where I was
Oh,
going
sorry.
because I know that he was the manager there at
Right.
Tula's and then running things, and then he now is down at the Black Cat, and I've heard very good things about how it's running down there. So.
Yeah, it's a really cool spot. Yeah, I've always really got along with Jason. He always helped me out too. Gave me a chance to present music every month at Tula's, which I'm very grateful for. He didn't have to do that. But yeah, I've always got along with him, and yeah, he's doing great stuff down there. Club's super cool. Yeah.
We miss you, Jason.
Yeah.
The Northwest needs you. Come back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, so what's on the? Well, actually, let's talk about touring a little bit. You recently just got back from Cuba. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that tour a little bit?
Yeah, so yeah, we just played Cuba like last week or something, with the band Vela the band, which is with the singer Marina Albero's daughter, who's a pianist that used to live here, from Spain, but I became friends with their whole family. But yeah, we actually recorded a record in Spain last summer, and played some gigs in Spain. Yeah, recorded a record, and then we played it at the Havana Jazz Festival last week. So we had like 4 gigs at the Havana Jazz Festival, which was incredible. Really crazy experience to be in Cuba.
Was last summer your first time in Spain?
Not my first time, but first time playing music out there for sure. Yeah.
That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So I have my own opinions about playing music in other countries. With the Spanish audiences and with the Cuban audiences and American audiences. And again, we're not talking trash here, but
Yeah.
how did you feel treated as an artist, respected as an artist, and the level of appreciation from musicians in Spain and Cuba versus the United States?
Yeah, it's like kind of night and day. I hate to say it, but yeah, they love the arts. They love music. They respect it. It's like night and day.
My thoughts and opinions on this are, again, I have many, but one is the United States as a country is a very young country. And when you look at these other places, they've had centuries and centuries and centuries of art and art appreciation and what's the word? The people that financially back artists, sponsors, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
So maybe there's a different thought process behind it, and maybe coming as artists playing American jazz to these other countries, maybe it's seen differently there than it is here. Maybe, and I'm not, again, this is not a bash against the United States. I mean, I know people like the music here, but it's a different thing. And
Yeah.
so I was just curious on your read on it when you played in these other places.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you said there. Cuba is pretty crazy. Like they love music. It's also kind of not all they have, but it's a very kind of rough country, to be honest. And music is like what they have, and they pour all their love and everything into music, and it's like so clear, you can see it. Because the country's pretty rough.
So did you get the opportunity? Well, I've been fortunate to play with some great musicians from Cuba, one being great trumpeter Miguelito Valdez. He also plays amazing conga as well. And I've just noticed, like, with Cuban musicians, it seemed like their sense of rhythm and sense of time is otherworldly.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you get that impression when you were there?
I did. Also, like, funny story, Chuchito Valdez, who's Chucho Valdez's son, I've played with him at Troubadour a couple times. And, I thought I knew some, like, montunos, some Cuban stuff, and he starts playing something during sound check, which was rehearsal. And, I started playing my montuno or whatever. He just looks at me, he's like, no. I was like, oh, man, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, it's a whole thing. You gotta know the thing. Yeah.
Well, as you say, I mean, they don't have a lot in Cuba. I've never been, so this is all secondhand information to me. You've experienced it, but because they have so little, they've got to make everything out of what they have, and so they take it very seriously.
Yeah.
And apparently, I did an interview with Jovino Santos Neto. He was here, and we were talking about, like, some of these rhythms. That's like the family rhythm or the regional rhythm, and they take a lot of pride in that thing. And if you mess it up, they're like, no, you're messing up our culture.
Right.
Do not do that.
Right.
So it's a big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got to see, like, Rumbata, which is a Rumba group from Cuba, and it's been, like, I don't know, this is like the 4th generation of the band, but they're like the original people who created Rumba Clave, and it's like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole culture. It's a whole, like, I wouldn't even want to touch that, Absolutely, yeah.
I remember reading I can't remember the book now, but it was reading about Jaco Pastorius, the great
Oh, wow.
bassist, and,
Yeah.
and his time with Weather Report. And I guess they were in Brazil doing something similar, working with Brazilian musicians for a featured thing. And there was a strong disagreement between him and someone else about how some of the rhythmic stuff was supposed to go. And it got very, very not pleasant.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, so okay, I have questions for you about you with Marina Albero and her family, and learning those musicians and going to Spain. Musically, did you find any big differences between what you experienced in Spain versus Cuba?
Yeah. Shoot, I don't really know. It's hard to say, and it's kind of fun. Like we were in the jazz world, so like they're all playing jazz, and they're kind of looked to, I guess, to America for like jazz, and all the artists they check out are like American jazz artists, and yeah, it was kind of fun. Like I want to check out your stuff. Like I already know the stuff that's going on here, so it's kind of curious. Yeah.
I have these conversations with people. It's like jazz and improvisation or spontaneous composition, like Julian Priest would always say. He prefers that term.
Yeah.
It's like it is a language, and your vocabulary is based on where you were born in your region and your parents. I mean, we can talk about like regular grammar and English or whatever, or if we're talking musically, you are a sum total of everything that you're a byproduct of or been exposed to.
Sure.
So that's regional. That's also generational, right? Like when you were born, the decade you were born in. And also the part of the world. Like for us, we're born on the West Coast, right? So, and I was born in 1978. So all the pop music that I was bombarded with as a kid is part of my, makeup, as well as the stuff that my parents listened to. My dad's from the Middle East, so I listened to a ton of Middle Eastern music.
Yeah.
My mom's from the Midwest, and then we're from the West Coast, so all of the jazz musicians that we heard or classical or whatever, right? But when you go to like, I remember being in Japan and playing with Japanese musicians, and they played incredibly good jazz.
Yeah.
But they have all of their folk music and all of the stuff that they were born in.
Right.
And even jazz musicians here, for example, take someone like Jay Thomas, who's a master musician.
Yeah.
Probably not super well versed in hip hop. And again, that's not a dig. It's just generationally, it's a different thing.
Totally.
So it's always fascinating to me. Traveling to different places in the world and playing with musicians like, we've all checked out these Blue Note records, but there's all these other things that come into how we hear music and when music is being created in real time, what is spurring us to make musical decisions and sentences a certain way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that's why I really love that group with Vela, just because it's like people from all over, and the music is just so unique just because of what you said. We have these different influences, and when we come together, it's like, it's incredible. Yeah.
I remember we were doing a workshop one time at a college in France, and the guy that had us, he was a lovely musician, and he just assumed, which was fine, but he assumed because we were American that we really knew how to play the blues. And I thought that was I thought that was an interesting read. Like it was just expected. You're from America, you have to know how to play the blues. Like sure, we could play the blues, but maybe we can't.
That's
so,
funny. Yeah.
anyways, we just live the blues in America. That's the deal.
Well,
So, all right. So now, totally, this is nothing to do with music, but kind of. So you live on a boat. You've been doing that for a long time. And how did that begin, and how did that start, and how does that work with life as a musician?
Yeah, it's pretty great. I love it. I'll say that. I'll start by saying that. But I lived in Alaska during the pandemic with Martin. And we met some people out there that were living on a sailboat. And I was like, whoa, I could do that in Seattle. And that's really how it started. I bought a little boat, like 5 years ago. Fixed it all up, sold it, made some money. Bought another bigger boat, fixed it up, sold it, made some money. Have my current boat now. It's a great way to live for me. Kind of keeps me sane. And I sail all over. I've sailed up to Canada, all over the place. It's kind of my little sanctuary. It's tough though. It's not easy. It's a small space, and you got to plan ahead, and there's always something breaking, something to fix. But I really love that world. I love being on the water. I also work a lot on boats now. I need it. Like I can't just focus on music, otherwise I'll lose my mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I bring this up. We've had this conversation before,
Yeah.
not in an interview, but so I'm curious how that works with like just the schedule as a musician and what that means, like owning a boat in Seattle, which is this part of the country, this part of the state. It's kind of a boat friendly, I would assume, place. Does that make it easier? Is it more cost effective as a musician to live on a boat, or is it still kind of expensive?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I thought it was cost effective. I mean, it's hard to say. Like I've made money flipping these boats, but you know, the longer you keep them, it's like a money pit. I don't think it's any cheaper than renting an apartment, but it's much more fun. Yeah.
But you can also leave with your apartment
You
if
can
you want
leave,
and go
yeah.
somewhere else. Yeah.
Exactly. Anywhere I go, I have my whole house with me. I got all my clothes, all my tools, everything I got, except my drums. I don't keep the drums on the boat.
That was the question, if you're able to like actually like practice and do stuff on the boat.
Yeah, I definitely compose on the boat. I have my little MIDI keyboard. The new record I got coming out, hopefully soon, was all composed on the boat. Pretty much, I wrote every tune on the boat. But yeah, I can't keep the drums. Practice pad. But you know, I don't practice much these days, and I really should. Maybe not. I don't know.
You're gigging all the time though. I see you
Yeah.
like you're always posting. I'm playing here, playing there. So I mean that's
That's the practice, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with practice. I used to practice a lot at college every day, hours and hours. And there's plenty of stuff to work on. I don't know. I kind of just like focus on different things right now, just trying to like listen more, and I don't know.
But I think I certainly don't have all the answers. I struggle with the same stuff that you're talking about. But the older that I get, I mean, obviously we need to have the fundamentals. And the reason I'm even bringing this stuff up is because I've had students ask about this, and I'm curious your opinions about this. I mean, we need to have strong foundations. We need to have sense of time. We need to have our ears figured out. We need to have harmony and melodic conception, at least somewhat, to be able to gig.
Yeah.
But also, you know, just listening to music. If you're really listening to absorb the music and help you develop these other things further, that is a form of practice.
Yeah.
Composing is a form of practice.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to, like, instead of having your you know, nose to the grindstone and doing this stuff all the time, sometimes it's beneficial to take a step back and, you know, do something else.
Yeah.
You know, I think all those things feed into you as a musician. Because if your brain is fried and you're working all the time, that's not necessarily positive for your playing.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, what
Yeah.
do you weigh in here?
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. This is like probably even a bad thing, but like I used to be like obsessed with the drum set, and like I was just like, you know, so focused on it. But now I'm kind of like, all the other stuff is more important to me now. Like listening to music, doing other things in my life are like more important than like shedding on the practice pad. For me at this moment, like all the other stuff is like a more positive influence and myself as an artist, like being able to express music, play music. That stuff helps me more than like sitting on the practice pad for hours. And my hands are trash. I really need to, you know, work some stuff out. And I'm kind of lazy too. Like let's not hide it. Like yeah, it's a little bit of laziness. Like, I don't want to just shed the drums, but I think all this other stuff is so important. Like composing, you know, just being a human being, a whole human being is like more important than you know, shredding on the drums.
This is not an intervention. We're not here to judge. We're here to get to know you more as a musician.
Right,
No,
right.
I agree with all you're saying. But the thing is, too, like when we improvise, just like when we're talking right now, we are expressing ourselves in that moment. We are communicating in that moment. And the more we live life and experience things, the more we have to say and the more we have to draw from. So again, I mean, that is a form of practice. I mean, more of an abstract form, but still beneficial depending on how you put it to use.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, you definitely have to have the facility to be able to say what you want to say. Yes. And I do feel like sometimes, man, like I wish I could play that and I can't. So like, that's the stuff I want to check out. All right, let's figure some stuff out here. You know.
I don't think we're alone in our opinions about that. I mean, that's I think just life.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, and you just mentioned we were talking about this. So aside from, well, actually, before I get to this next question, so on the boat, you're talking about composing. Do you find yourself composing more now than you used to, say 5-10 years ago, or when you were in school?
Yeah, I think so. Just like lived more. I've had more experiences with stuff, and the writing feels more organic and just like meaningful now. Yeah, I kind of like feel like I write a tune because I have to or something. I don't know, not to be corny, but you know, yeah, I have something to say. Like I want to write music. That's my outlet. Yeah, I'm not a writer. I'm not a painter. You know, that's how I can say some things with music. And I got some stuff to say. I'm pretty young, but yeah.
I'm curious now with your experiences, you've been able to travel and see some other countries, and you work a fair amount here, and probably as much as you want to work here, and you work with lots of different artists and probably lots of different situations with gigs, musically, but also monetarily. With your experience in the field of being a musician, what's the state of affairs for the music scene in your opinion?
Yeah, gosh, it's really hard to say. I've played full time in Seattle for a couple years, probably like honestly 2 or 3 years. I've only played gigged, not taught, just gigged, and it's possible. I made some money, made decent money, but I can't do it now. I don't think I could do it again. It's just too tough, and like it just becomes a job. And right now, I've really taken a step back from just playing a bunch of gigs to make money, and it's been healthy for me. Like I said, I've been working on boats, doing some other stuff. And that's allowed me to just take gigs I want to do that are fun, which has been healthy for me at this point. But that might change again, you know. Sometimes it's better just to play than have a bullshit job on a boat. Sorry. But, yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't feel bad about that. I mean, I've heard like guys like Elvin Jones and Thelonious Monk used to drive cab.
Right,
you know, and these are
right.
some of the geniuses and inventors of this music. Charlie Parker worked in a restaurant, you
Right.
know, so that there's no shame in making a living. You have to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's on the horizon for you moving forward as a musician? What are some things that do you have plans? I mean, obviously you're doing some touring and you have some projects. There are plans and things that you're moving towards, or
Yeah.
what's on the horizon?
Yeah, so we're definitely trying to get these records out, and we'd like to tour them. We'd like to go back to Europe and tour with Vela. Yeah, just keep putting out music and keep playing for some different audiences. Yeah, but really getting these records done. But it's so hard. It's like each record's like $5-10 grand. It's like we got 6 of them recorded. We're just like, how do we do this? You know, it's frustrating. It's actually really frustrating. And like we do a GoFundMe like to record, and then we're like, well, that's only like a fourth of the cost, and you can't make a GoFundMe every time you want to do something. So that state of the music thing is like really effed up. You know, it's like
I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah.
Period. Like what we were mentioning earlier, you know, if you look at artists, you know, in Europe back in the day, that was the word I was looking for, patrons. You had
yeah.
someone who believed in you as an artist, and they would that was the old school GoFundMe. It was
Right.
like you needed to have a patron. Like you
Right.
got your skills together, someone believed in your skills, and you had a patron,
Right.
and that's what it was.
Right.
And it kind of almost feels like it hasn't really changed. I mean, the form is like it's not the Medici family bankrolling it, right? Now it's either a grant
Right.
or it's like the public doing a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter.
Right.
It's like the same thing,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
honestly.
Right.
Again, I have no answers here. These are just things that I notice.
Right.
But yeah, I have no answers here. Just commiserating with you.
Yeah, I know, it's tough. Yeah, and you make a record, you're not going to make the money back, so it's like, why would someone invest in your record? Like, there's no return. So it's like, I don't know, it's pretty simple in a way.
That's people ask me all the time, when are you going to do another album? The last album that we recorded was in 2016. And like during the pandemic, we did these series, and we're writing music constantly. Even before the pandemic, there's probably enough material to record 5 albums. Now I don't even know. There's so much material,
Yeah.
and people are like, when are you going to record? That song's so great. When are you recording? It's like, well, why? Because I have to pay the musicians to do the recording. I've got to pay for the mastering. I've got to pay for distribution, and then people are just going to put it on Spotify and not going to buy.
Right.
I've been teaching my high school program now for 25 years. I ask my high school students, how many of you have a CD player? None of them have CD players, let alone everyone says, oh, make vinyl. Well, they don't have record players, the majority of people. So, I mean, I understand, and yes, I want to make a new album, and this is not about me, and this is my opinions here.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, why? And I remember
Yeah.
someone asking Roy Hargrove this because his last album was Ear Food, which was met
Yeah.
with great success. It's a wonderful album.
Yeah.
But he didn't put out another album after that, and people were like, well, how can we do it? And he's like, why should I? There's no point in doing this because I'm not going to make any money off of this.
Right.
And it's not a callous thing just about the economics of music and providing a living for yourself, but it's also, as musicians, we're making money off of gigs and maybe teaching, and that's getting more and more to be a challenge with what clubs pay and everything else.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the question, is we want to make an album because it's useful to maybe get gigs and festivals and things of that nature, but on the flip side, the economics of making an album versus the return, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, like I said, we want to put all this music out. We really want to. Like, we want to do it, but we literally just have to shell out so much money. We're just like, literally can't do it, you know. And yeah, you're not gonna get your money back. It's rough. It's really rough. Yeah, I don't know what to say either. It's tough.
We're not here trying to solve the world's problems. I mean,
Yeah.
really, if you're watching this, it's not a poor me thing. This is just the day-to-day in the lives of professional musicians and how to navigate the landscape here.
Yeah.
And again, I have no answers. It doesn't sound like you do either.
Yeah, nothing.
So we're not trying to solve it, just like how to make it work. Anyways, at this point in the interview, if anybody watching online or in person has questions for Xavier or myself, please let me know. Are there any questions online? Okay, then I'll keep barraging you with questions.
There we go.
So you've had the tour in Cuba, you've had the tour in Spain. Have you visited any other countries to perform outside of the United States?
I don't think so, but like Canada, you know, up the way here. That's about it.
And was that with Meridian Odyssey or with a different project?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, Meridian Odyssey's played up there. I've played up there with some Portland groups. Yeah, it's kind of like the classic tour run on the West Coast. You know, you go from Canada down to LA. I've done that run like 10 times probably.
Any flying involved or mostly driving?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. Actually, I toured with the Tiptons once. And that was actually a really, really great group to tour with. Also, I was only the only male in the band, so I always got my own room, which was pretty awesome because you're just like 6 dudes crammed in a hotel room. But yeah, a little bit of flying, a little driving. Done that drive a lot. Yeah, doing it again. Coming up here with Junita. I think we have another that same run. It's fun though. I like it.
Now, are you? You didn't mention that earlier, but Junita's band. Did you do the album?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was on that record.
Okay, so are you technically when June is out here playing? Are you in that band?
Yeah. I've done most of the gigs with him on the West Coast. Yeah, we got another run coming up, and he's got some new music. But yeah, we recorded that record in LA. It was really nice of him to have me on it. Yeah, pretty proud of that record.
Cool. Now, are you technically in that band? I mean, when he's out here, you do most of the shows, correct?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'd say that.
And how did that? I mean, because you mentioned Dylan, you guys went to school together, and then stuff at Cornish. How did you get in contact with June?
Yeah, I think it was just around the scene in Seattle. He moved from LA, I think post-pandemic, and yeah, we became really good friends. Played music together. Yeah, and he's on the East Coast now. But yeah, every time he comes to town, we play. Yeah, I love June. June's a really good friend. Yeah.
Cool. Any questions so far?
No,
All right. If we'll get things wrapped up here. Number one, thanks for joining us and being our guest today. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break, do a quick sound check, and then we'll resume with a concert starting at 3 p.m., which is, if you're joining us online, it's free to watch. If you're here in the museum, just come in and check it out. And so in parting, I guess the first question is, you mentioned that you don't teach. If someone wanted to study with you, would you be open to teaching lessons?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really teach. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
No.
Any gigs coming up in the near horizon that you want to mention?
Oh shoot, I don't really know. I know some stuff with Dylan's coming up. I think we're actually doing the Jim Knapp Orchestra in March.
Is that the Royal Room?
Yeah, they'll be at the Royal Room. So that'll be a pretty special show.
How can people get tickets to that if they want to attend?
Yeah, I think Royal Room website, I believe. Yeah, that's going to be a special one. That's probably the one I'd promote.
Can you talk about that project a little bit? I mean, we've mentioned Jim Knapp as an educator at Cornish, but can you talk about the band? And Dylan's kind of spearheading this thing, correct?
Yeah, so I guess Jim kind of left the books to Dylan, kind of like gave him the big band. So him and Jay are kind of co-running things. But yeah,
Jay Thomas?
Jay Thomas, right. But yeah, I kind of became good friends with Jim towards the end of his life. He was kind of in a nursing home and needed some help, and obviously he has so much knowledge about music, so it was a very mutual thing. Go hang out with him and learn about his compositions, his writing, and he wanted to. I think he even asked me to like track some drums on one of the tracks on the latest record that doesn't have drums. And he was talking to me like, man, I really want like a hip hop beat, something like this on it, and it never got to happen because he passed. But Jim was a really good friend, yeah. And that band is super cool. The Jim Knapp Orchestra has a whole history that, they've been playing for how long? I don't even know. Long time. yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so now it's all Jim's tunes and maybe folks that had, I'm curious, are there any new songs being added to the book with folks that had associations with Jim, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think it's just mostly Jim's music. And Dylan has a big band as well. I think they've kind of mixed, but yeah, because Dylan's a great composer and writer for big band. So there's a bit of mixing, but it's mostly Jim's music, yeah. Yeah.
That's a question? The question is to ask about Carrier Masterpiece?
Carrier's my first record, I guess. I don't know if it's a masterpiece. But yeah, it's my first record with all original music. Most of my tunes, some tunes from some other folks. Lucas composed some tunes on that record. But yeah, it was like the first working band I had with Ben, Gus, Lucas, and myself, and Santos. Yeah, we played every week. Like I said, every Sunday we get together and play. And eventually recorded that record, toured it, and that's kind of that. I haven't had a...
What Xavier's it means to say to everybody watching this, either in person or down the line, is you should go online and purchase this album at full price and not listen to it on Spotify. That's what Xavier's meaning to say right now.
Yeah.
All right. So, any other questions? No. All right. If a musician, a younger than you musician, was coming up to you and said, "Hey, Xavier, I'm thinking about undertaking being a full-time musician, and I really want to do this." What is something or some things that you have experienced that you found kind of necessary or vital and helpful in your journey as a musician to be successful where you are right now? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I don't know. Just like be open to everything. Yeah, music's a beautiful thing. Like you can learn so much, but all the other stuff around it's like really important. That's what I'm learning more and more. But I feel like the obvious. You got to study, check out the tradition, get your stuff together. But you're gonna do that anyway. I feel like, but I think the other stuff is like super important. Other stuff meaning all the other things around your life. Just like take care of yourself, and it's all gonna work out.
Awesome. Good advice. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
thank you
my
for joining us in person or online. And we're going to take a short break. We'll be back very soon with some live music for you.